before you walk into a networking event, go in with the spirit that I am there to have fun. Because if the mind is going in, I'm like, this is part of my job. I'm going to go in there because I have to. It's going to tick the box. You're not going in with the right intention already. And you're not, rubbish in, rubbish out, right?
Welcome to Happy to Offend You. Life guarantees that somebody's going to be offended by anything that you do. In fact, somebody right now is offended by life itself, but they don't have to be. This show guarantees that someone is going to be liberated from being offended by somebody else's offensive behavior. What? Yes, we said it. This show sets out to prove not only how to be liberated from being offended, and also how to be happy to offend. So if you're already offended, welcome to the show. And here's your host of the very offensive, Michelle Nedelec. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I am so excited that you're here with us because I am here with my most amazing guest, Jocelyn. Jocelyn, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me on your show.
Love it. So give us a highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
I'm a networking specialist, high performance sales speaker and coach. I've got a podcast, and I love empowering female entrepreneurs and business professionals master the art of intentional networking so they can really accelerate their growth and break through the glass ceiling. So that's me.
Nice. I love it. So let's dive right into this. In your experience of networking, do people ever get really offended by something that somebody else has said, or get really worried that they can't network because they're going to say something that somebody might be offended by?
Yes, on both parts of that question that you asked, people can be easily offended when they are not grounded in who they are. So a lot of times people, or at least what I've noticed, if people are not confident with who they are, whatever comments that people talk about, they take it too seriously. It's like, oh no, and then they dwell on that comment, and then it eats up all their energy and they cannot get past it. So it's so important that when you attend a networking event, you'll be coming across people from different background, culture, age, sectors, different upbringing, different styles. And I think it's so important to keep an open mind and not take things too seriously. There'll be things that people say that you may not agree. For example, like current topic is like Chat GPT. There's a whole host of views,
So
opinions.
offensive.
Some people can get so fired up. I'm like, it's just a new item. It's just a new tool. And last night I was in another group conversation and some people are like, oh no, you know what? I don't care about it. I want to be who I am. I want to be true to myself. I'm like, okay, chill. We just thought that this is a common trend and topic that is around on LinkedIn. So we just thought that, just asking different people's opinion. But sometimes people can take it really very far away that, it's kind of important to just be self-aware. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. So let's kind of back up the bus a little bit. And how did you get into networking as a thing? What's a little bit of your background?
So I started the wrong way around with networking. And so I learned a lot from my own mistakes, from my life lessons. And when I first started networking in Australia, I was from Malaysia. And so networking in Australia is so different. In Malaysia, we are very multicultural. In Australia, there's certain expectations that you come with. And I wasn't, educated in a private school here. I don't have a group or people that I already know. So I'm on my own and I have to start from ground out. And I just had to navigate through that. The one thing that I struggled with was in Australia, a lot of people network and they need to go out for a drink. And I'm not someone that enjoy beer all the time. Like I might like a glass of wine and I might, want to do a cocktail every so often. But for them, it's like there's a lot of drinking. And I was also in a male-dominated sector in the banking and finance industry. So everything is food and wine. And I was like, I'm sure there's another way of doing networking. But that was the core part because it was my career. It was, what was expected. So I learned that I could network without having the alcohol in my hand, number one. And I also learned that, when I go to networking, I need to be intentional because I could be in a networking event and like walk out 90 minutes later. I'm like, what was that? I didn't get anything out of it. And so it was more of learning to be intentional. Going in, have got some questions ready to ask and start a conversation with someone. Going in to know how to join a crowd and have a conversation to open up if someone asks me, so Jocelyn, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm not tongue-tied, knowing what to say. So all those things were things that I had to teach myself and do research and read. And that was not taught anywhere else. This was like, 20 years ago. And so I had to go, right, I got to be prepared. Couple of things. What do I say when people ask me what I do? Or what are my favorite things to do outside of work? Like I have to be able to jump into that conversation naturally. And over time, I became very comfortable to walk into any networking events and just join the conversation. Or the other thing was to excuse myself out of crowds that I didn't think this conversation is going to be enjoyable for me. Because a lot of times I feel that I was very uncomfortable to excuse myself. I didn't want to offend someone in the group that I should excuse myself. So I'm like stuck in there. I'm like, oh no, I don't know where is this gonna go. And so I wasted my time and my opportunity. There's like another 100, people in a crowd that I could, say hello to. And so those are the things that they are so minor, but they became something that I was so aware that I could go, all right, so great to meet you all here. I'm just going to move myself and walk the floor and get to know another group of people, and don't feel bad about it. It's okay to leave a group. It's okay to excuse yourself. And so those are the minor things that I started to implement when I, network across different morning networking group, lunch networking group, evening networking group. And it was really, really powerful where I went in with intention. So by intention, I mean, right, do I want to get to know this group of people and how I can add value to the conversation and how I can add value to a conversation? And then to follow through, because it's all nice. Everyone exchanged their QR code that, they met you and they connect with you on LinkedIn or, Instagram. But to make it more purposeful is to ensure that you continue with a follow-up, either a text, voice note, and then if, both parties are comfortable, to do a one-on-one, 20 minutes, and make sure that the one-on-one is meaningful rather than one party, having the whole one-on-one conversation. Sometimes it happens a lot that way, but is to be very intentional and purposeful with the one-on-one and say, hey, you know what? Both of us are going to have enough time to share, and that we value our time. We respect, that both parties are busy professionals, and to be intentional and prepare what you want to get out from the one-on-one as well. So those are very strategic moves when it comes to intentional networking.
Absolutely. And you just laid down everything. And I think it's easy to kind of bypass it. But I think people who are new to the whole networking world, so people may have even had like a C-suite occupation and they go into, say, becoming a consultant or something to that effect. And they're like, oh, okay, I got to do this networking thing. And it can be really difficult to think, I can't offend these people because if I do, I'm not going to get any clients out of it. I'm certainly not going to get referrals out of it. And there's a whole lot of mindset around not offending other people. And I can't imagine what it was like going from Malaysia to Australia with all of the cultural differences that are there, even though both of them are like, yeah, we're super sweet. We're nice people. Wow. We don't have that cultural difference. I'm like, yeah, they're huge. You have a lot of cultural differences actually. And they're both adorable and sweet people. So how, like, let's then really break down this. What do I do when I go into those meetings, and how do I politely, do I need to know the culture of whomever I'm meeting with in order to be able to exit from a conversation politely? Or do I need to know the culture to be able to break into a group, especially if I go into a room where there's like pockets of people and it seems really cliquey?
I think number one is when you walk into a room, there are rooms where it's very warming and there are rooms that's very cold. Some rooms you go into, there are already cliques forming and they're so guarded. They're like sending the vibes out there. Do not join my group because this is for me to have fun. I'm away from my kids, my husband, and this is my time to catch up. If you feel that,
Mm-hmm.
then don't join the
If they're
group.
shoulder to shoulder, they probably want to be
It's
left
like,
alone.
and they want to talk about, something that is private, then use all your energetics and your own five senses to read the room. So number one, I think is the awareness, right? Scan the room, listen to, sort of the vibe, and use your own deep intuition to know, all right, is this going to be something that I want to walk into? And go in with an open mind. It's so important to walk in and have an open mind and listen to the conversation and ask questions. I think a lot of people want to jump into an opinion. And I always think that is so powerful when you do ask questions about the topic that they are already having a talk on. And be curious, keep an open mind. The other thing that I like to introduce or offer our audience is that before you walk into a networking event, go in with the spirit that I am there to have fun. Because if the mind is going in, I'm like, this is part of my job. I'm going to go in there because I have to. It's going to tick the box. You're not going in with the right intention already. And you're not, rubbish in, rubbish out, right? So if you go in with that mindset that I am going in there, I'm a resourceful individual. I know that I can build quality relationships. If I meet two quality connections, that connection might have 6 people they know, and that might open a door, a window, a back door, whichever door, to a whole new world for you. So number one is a mindset. In your car or in whichever transportation that you go into, just give yourself 30 seconds, reset your mindset and go, I'm going to go in there, open-minded, bring my best smile, have that conscience, and I want to look around and not look down on the floor or look up at the ceiling because there's a lot of that as well. A lot of people like look at the corner, they're not really having that warm eye contact. And then just carry yourself. And when you do that, you're magnetic, and actually people want to come and talk to you. It's actually quite interesting that you will attract groups of people that invite you to join them. And more often than not, I feel that people open up the space for me to come and sort of like, wave you in and warmly welcome you in and say, hey, you know what, is this your first time? And you can join the conversation that way. And then walk in with, handy questions, like 5 questions, like, oh, what do you enjoy doing outside of work? Where and when is the best time you get your best ideas from? Like really open up the conversation and have, a few questions at your back pocket that you can create conversation that is fun and lighthearted and maybe, not too serious. I think those are important points. And when you're conscious around that, you are sure that when you go in, you're going to walk out knowing that that experience is going to be fun. A couple of other things that I want to add, which was really interesting, is, we all want people to enjoy connecting with us on social media. And I do notice this a lot with a number of clients that I'm working at the moment, that I'm encouraging them to really ensure that their profiles are updated. So you carry yourself at a networking event and someone looks at your profile after that on LinkedIn and the photos are like such a mismatch.
Day and night. Is that
You're
you?
like,
It kind of looked like your sister. I'm not seeing it.
so, upgrade. I would say upgrade your profile, spend the next 5 minutes and just look at your profile picture. Is that representing you in the current state? If not, why not just, upgrade your photos? It takes you 30 seconds, right? And do a professional shot if you are appearing on LinkedIn. And don't, cut a wedding photo somewhere and just, or something. Just do a professional shot. We all have cameras on our phone. So use it to your advantage. And have a clean background. Don't add other people in the group of your own profile photos. And make it professional if you want to be someone who be known as a professional, as an authority, as a go-to expert. Show up that way. Make sure that your profile photo state it that way. And then the next thing is your profile. Make sure that you have got your position statement. 5 sentence, how many sentences it is that is representing you now, because you have grown the last 2 years, the last 12 months. So make sure that you update based on your accomplishments, your qualifications, what you stand for, who you serve, those really basic stuff. But it's so basic that it is necessary to review that every so often. I highly recommend my clients to always review that every 6 to 12 months, just to see that, you are in line with what you're doing. And then, make sure that you dress professionally at a networking event. Don't underestimate, right? The 7 seconds of your first impression is how people make an impression of you. So, other thing that I want to really bring to someone's attention is maybe brush your teeth, because make sure that your breath is pleasant because that is important as well. When you go to a networking event, sometimes people have got unpleasant breath. It can be quite overwhelming having a conversation, especially in an in-person one. So, those things, they are minor, but I want to bring that to the conversation. And also things like, make sure that, you're calm. Maybe do a few breathing techniques before you walk into a networking event to just make sure that you're calm and you are ready to have a conversation. You are comfortable with who you are. And those things you can take control. You can take strong control over your own life, your own destiny. And that those are the things that will help you stand out in the right way at a networking event. And then the rest will work itself out.
Nice. Well, and I noticed a lot of people are, they go to networking events with the intention of selling the people in the room, which a lot of people in the room find very offensive. It's like, okay, now there's times when you're happy to offend them and times when it's, but it's just not making you money. So how can people approach going into a networking room? Like you mentioned a few good things, to have it light and to have it casual, to have a few more conversations, but how do you have that intention and be able to have some different conversations, whether it's, looking for suppliers or centers of influence, or like just getting outside of that I'm here to sell thing?
So my personal opinion is, yes, a lot of networking event is I'm going in there to slam you with my product, my features, my benefits. And if you don't, I'm moving to another group and I'll speak about it and I'll shove that down to you. Now, if you do business that way, it's unlikely that you can be in business long term, especially post-COVID, because people are building genuine relationships with people. So it's easy for people to stand out in the crowd if you go in with the right mindset that I've mentioned earlier on, and just go in as you are. Don't go in to sell, because the sell will come if you make a great impression. And that if you are going to take anything out of this conversation, learn to think that you don't want to be transactional anymore. The world, there's more than enough products that people are trying to sell you every single day. You're in your email, in your DMs, in your inbox, wherever. So think about it is a relationship-based environment. Build relationship with people. Because if you build that know, like, and trust, people will come to you. People will buy from people they like. So why not use that part establish the trust, have a conversation, and be really genuine around the conversation. Don't have the conversation because you have to show off, or you have to prove yourself, or you want to appear as the most knowledgeable person in the room. Just be yourself in a way that is very pleasant and enjoyable. And that when people are curious around who you are, they will naturally ask, "Oh, so what do you do?" And, tell me more. Allow people to invite you to share what you do, but you go in as who you are rather than going into, you know what, I work for XYZ. This is what I believe. If you are interested, this is my business card. This is my flyer. Do you want a pen that represents my company name? It's like, whoa, okay. It's a bit too much, but yeah, shift that mindset and remove from that transactional style of doing business, and just the best way to stand out is there's so many people in that transactional style that if you shift 5% and upgrade everything that you already have to another 5% of what we have talked about today, you will really stand out in the right way from the crowd.
Absolutely, we will. So, in your industry, have you ever tipped the apple cart, so to speak? So, have you ever offended anybody by going, you know what? Don't do that.
I'm pretty sure I've offended a lot of people in my lifetime. And I think it's sometimes it's unknown, sometimes it's known. But I also know that, if I've offended someone, I didn't mean to, and I apologize, and I'm willing to say sorry. And I also forgive people who offend me as well very quickly, because I want to live a life that is fun. And if you keep a lot of offenses, it creates a lot of heaviness in your emotions, and you're not going to enjoy life that way. So if you're easily offended by what people say, here's a thought: learn the art of forgiveness and apply that into your world. And if you are offensive in what you say, then maybe reflect on how you can refine the way you approach conversation, refine the way you move into a room and how you present yourself. And those things, you are in control. And when you're in control of those things, you see a lot of beautiful things on the other side that's available to you, wanting to partner with you, wanting to collaborate with you, wanting to help you achieve greater level of success. So that's what I'm going to offer.
I love it. So I know you work with people to be able to help them to navigate the waters of networking. What are some of the ways that you help people and that they can work with you?
There's a number of ways that you can partner with me. I do have a one-on-one where, some people needed a bit more attention. They want to access my time, and they want to access a lot of what I can show them. And so there's a one-on-one offer that I do. The next one is a mastermind. So in a mastermind, you come in, you already have a viable product. You just want to upgrade a lot of what you do and refine and finesse, either your process of doing things, the way you approach things, the way you upgrade your personal brand, the way you increase, your understanding about your business so they can scale. So there's two options around that as well. And I think I feel that if you just come into my world through connecting with me on LinkedIn or follow me on Instagram or listen to my podcast, I mean, that's the best way to see, how we can work together. And you will know when, it's ready for you, how best we should work together and what format works for you best.
Nice. So talk to us about your podcast for a bit, because I think it's intriguing and love to know more about it.
So my podcasts have been rebranded a number of times because I've grown and I've evolved, and also narrowed down a lot of things that I want to do, because I want to simplify the way I run my business so that I can have more time to myself and enjoy life a lot more. And this year, I've rebranded that to be in line with my program called Magnetic Networking Accelerator. So in my podcast, I talk about a variety of things. I talk about, intentional networking. I talk about how to really upgrade your sales skills, leadership, and really self-care strategies so that you can be your best from the inside out. Because I always believe that when you actually work from the inside out, is very aligned with what you want to track from the universe as well. So the deeper work and infusing a lot of spiritual tools, right? Tools like, all right, hypnotherapy, EFT, things like journaling, deep meditation, breath techniques. I talk about them because I practice them for my own life and the way I approach things. And I'm not an expert in all of that. Like, there's a lot of people who are expert in hypnotherapy and they do hypnotherapy every single day. But those are the modalities that would really work for me. And I continue to learn. Like, a couple of weeks ago, I work with a kinesiologist now. And also, I learned about, different things on, like, I'm not strong in it. I'm open to it, like human design, getting a human design reading, understanding how my energetics work and how I can contribute more effectively in the world. So I talk about all that. Yes, there's a strategy, of course, the art and science of managing things, but it's a combination of everything. And anything that, is interesting, I'm happy to talk about them. So that's what my podcast content is about.
I love that. And I'm assuming you bring in all of your past experience into this world of networking, because I think it's important for the audience to know a little bit more of your background, in that, like, you came from a pretty high up corporate position, and networking at that level was important. And so it's not just, hey, I'm starting a business and I need to go and find some people, that there's a whole echelons of networking. So talk to me about about that experience.
So a little bit about my background. So 22 years in banking and finance, working for the top banks in Australia. You network at the board level, you network at the very senior level and C-suites, and then you have your vendors, you have your internal leadership team. And so there's so many aspects to network. And what I found that is really important is that you need to be very adaptable when you network at different level. And to do a bit of prep work before you attend those networking events, because some of them are very, very focused on a particular area in terms of networking. In fact, I'm part of the Australian company board of directors, and the way they network is so different. Like they are very focused on, all right, at the moment, the topic is diversity, inclusion, and equity. We're going to talk about that, and, they are in there to work on those topics, and they're trying to increase, more diversity aspects and talk about that. And then you go into, supply chain, and you work with all your vendors, and they're looking for different things at the moment, how they create events, what sort of products are really working really well. Then the C-suite, they're talking about, employee engagement. They just had a 360 employee engagement, rating, some areas around people not wanting to come back to the office, but they need to come back to the office for team building purposes. So when you go into that event and you want to network, you need to be aware of, all right, how can I contribute meaningfully around that conversation when I'm there to network? Because you have, 90 minutes of maybe a conversation around that, but usually after that 90 minutes, they want you to walk around, they've got refreshments and they want you to talk with people. So I think keep yourself abreast with a lot of current message and trends, and continue to read, continue to listen to podcasts, continue to upgrade your own personal skills. A lot of us, sometimes basic skills like, when you do a podcast interview, how to be a best guest on podcasts, things like that the more you know about it, the more you're going to show up as an effective guest. how you can be a good host on podcasts, all those sort of minor things, but they are common trends now that you can continue to upgrade. How to show up in terms of, your background. That's one interesting point, because a lot of podcast hosts at the moment include a lot of their recording on YouTube. And so when you are a guest on podcasts, you want to make sure that your background is clean so that they can use the recording purposefully as well. But, all those things, when you are networking with people, you want to just be aware, and you continue to learn, continue to increase maybe 1 to 3% of your skills every single day, and sharpen that and refine that and upgrade that. And that can help you be such a magnetic networker.
I love it. You have been absolutely amazing, Jocelyn. Any last words for our peeps today?
Yes, I would really encourage everyone to deepen your own self-love and build a deeper relationship with who you are. Because the more you understand who you are, the more awareness you develop, the more you are going to contribute to this world. And so we want you to be your best self. We want you to sharpen your superpowers. And so that is something that I want our listeners to consider, reflect. And maybe, if you're listening on this episode when you're out for a run, or you're picking up your kids, or you're cooking, take, a few moments of quiet time and reflect. And I hope that this message serves you in a greater way, and that, you continue to see how you can be your best self.
Nice. Thank you, Jocelyn, so much for your time. I appreciate it, and I know how valuable it is.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate you and the work that you do.
Nice. Peeps, thank you for being here today, and thank you for allowing us to offend you for just a little bit of your time. Come back and join us for our next episode of Happy to Offend You.